Hi, I'm David Charlton, and this is Demystifying Mental Toughness Podcast. 5 minutes for a series of 10 episodes on a Tuesday for those interested in football or soccer and who want to play their best more often. Hi there. Well, this week we're approaching the final straight. We're in the 9th of this 10-part series here for footballers, football coaches, football parents, anybody who's interested in football. Last week in episode 204, we went on to identify some expectations about different situations that can help or hinder your performance. And this time round, we're going to go that just a little bit deeper. We're going to help you gain more than just awareness. We're going to help you create some behaviour changes. Hopefully some sustainable behaviour changes in the long term. After all, that's what we're looking for, certainly as a psychologist. We want players to express themselves. We want players to be more confident, week in, week out, not just once, or twice, or 5 times in a season. And one particular challenge I notice is when a player comes into a big match, they might view the big match very differently to the bog standard normal match. And yes, this does link back to expectations. If we think about the things they might write down about this big match, I expect my opponents to give me a tough game. I expect we'll be on the back foot a lot. So how do we shift this? How do we actually help you? Well, I'm going to share some ideas now. One observation is, on these expectations, there's an awful lot of focus and attention on the opposition. Yes, you need to prepare for the opposition, but if you overly focus on the opposition, you're not going to perform to your best, are you? So I'd consider changing this expectation. And if we're going to write this down, I expect, what would it be? We're going to strip away our ego. We're going to strip away any imposter syndrome that we have. We're going to strip away any emotion. And really, regardless of whether this is a big game or a game against a perceived weaker opponent, the expectation could and arguably should read like so. I expect to give my direct opponent or opponents the hardest game of their lives. Or I expect to make my opponent's job as difficult as possible. Now that's a mindset shift, isn't it? We're not going into the game thinking overly too much about the opponent. We're starting to think mentally about how we can make it difficult for the opponent. So yeah, we're going to acknowledge it may well be a hard game, but let's make it about you and what you put into the match. And this links back to process goals and the key ingredients that I've talked about in episode 202. So that's where we're going to go. So rather than simply just having an expectation, we're going to go one step further. We're going to set a process goal that alleviates what we're talking about. It's really simple. Your process goal in this context is to give your opponent a torrid time. So depending on what position you play, it's going to be slightly different. And all we're going to do, or all I'm going to ask you to do is, in this big game, or this little game, it doesn't matter at all, I want you to rate yourself on 1 to 10. 1 is where you were frightened and you didn't make it difficult for the opponent. 10 is you made it very, 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 very difficult for the opponent. The reality is, though, as I alluded to, we've got to really go into the key ingredients, though. We've got to go deeper, haven't we? Because your opponent is going to bring different parts of themselves to make it difficult for you. So perhaps you have to be more physical. You have to use your body really well to perhaps bully them in football terms. You maybe have to be on the move a lot and very smart with your movement to tire them out. It might well be that you've got an opponent who's trying to wind you up. They're in your ear an awful lot. That time and time again they're telling you you're not very good, that you're going to get beat. Maybe they might cross the line and tell you that they're going to hurt you, or much worse. But what's your response to that? Maybe this is where we look at another process goal. This process goal might be to contain your emotions, to stay quiet, or maybe to choose to smile at them. Remember, if this player's trying to wind you up, but you're trying to make it as difficult as possible for them, is being quiet, is smiling at them likely to wind them up and put them off their game? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you do have to give them some verbals back, and maybe that can be your process goal. Either way, the process goal in this case, is split into two. It's one, making it very difficult for them, and two, it's controlling your emotions and deciding how you want to react in different situations with them. So, some things about process goals though. I think it's very important not to get too carried away with process goals and go on to set yourself 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 process goals in a match. That's going to be way too much. Your brain isn't going to be able to take that on. So I'd keep it simple. Very simple. Go for 1, maybe 2 maximum. So in this case, making an opponent's life as hard as possible, maybe by your movement. Secondly, making it difficult for them because of the way that you manage your state, manage your emotions. So yeah, more food for thought for you. Obviously next week is going to be the last of our 10-part series, and I'm going to build on this when I consider another challenge, and then again potentially seek to help you. And for more on process and key ingredients, psychological ways to improve your performance, please do sign up to the X Factor, our regular newsletter. It's proving very, very popular and is gaining more and more traction and some nice feedback. The details are in the show notes. Until then, have a fantastic week.